Rick, let's jump into it.
All right, buddy. What do you got in mind?
This one is titled, What Are You Constantly Working On? You mind if I kick us off?
I'm hoping you will.
The answer to that question for me is, for a long time, it wasn't me. I wasn't working on me. I was busy working on my problems, solutions to those problems. It's said, to grow spiritually, it requires you to work on yourself, not on what's outside or other people. And for me, like, how could I didn't have any time to work on myself because I was so busy working on my problems and working on, solutions or trying to strive and get somewhere else or trying to fix somebody else's problems, and so, and a lot of that was stemming from just being really busy, trying to be happy, either through accomplishments or things or the people, fixing things, or I was busy trying to get rid of anything that disturbed my pursuit of happiness or creating happiness for other people, whatever it might be. And Rick, that's a full-time job. Working on my problems is a full-time job, man. And what I learned, and Michael Singer kind of alluded to this in a podcast I listened to from him, is that the only real work there is working on yourself. And in doing that, you will be able to take intelligent action to the relative problems that are in your life. And so, I've just really have changed what my focus and my attention has been. And the last 7 years, it's really been one thing, and that's working on me. And it's amazing when people learn about some of the challenges that have happened. They'd be like, oh, you overcame that so easily. Or like, I admire that you overcame that. And I couldn't have done any of that if I wasn't working on myself. And I made that the only thing that I was working on. So what are your thoughts, Rick?
Yeah, I work on that a lot. The two things that come up for me a lot that I have trouble with are detachment and compassion. And I'll tell you the context of each. Compassion, I'm such a judger that I can find reasons not to like things or not to like people easily, and more easily than I can for trying to understand where they are and why they're saying what they're saying or what has caused them on their path to be where they're at. So I have to constantly remind myself that they're just like me and that they're doing the same thing. And then I have no idea what kind of struggle they're involved in their lives that causes them to act the way that I think is improper. And then I think, what right do I have to even judge anybody about being improper or proper? There's enlightened self-interest that we all, I guess, go through and try to have a better life for ourselves and our families. And who knows, maybe I'm on the tail end of that and I don't see the full picture. It's not maybe, it's true. That's exactly what's happening. You don't see the full picture. So I'm struggling with compassion on that level. And then detachment, because I'm an A-type guy and I'm results oriented, just like you are, Keith. And I'm still in my law practice. The idea of getting a result is pounding into my head. Pounding, get the result, get to the finish line, get what the client wants, get that money, get that injunction, get this wrong righted. And at some point, usually after all the hard work is done, I have to remind myself the outcome is not up to me, right? It's like a doctor working on a patient who suffers from a debilitating disease. You do everything you can that science will allow you to do, and your good skill and intelligence permits it to happen. But if healing doesn't occur, you have to detach from outcome. Easy to say, hard to do. Right. I struggle with that every day. So detachment and compassion are the biggest things for me. But putting that in the context of what you're talking about self-worth, self-working on, working on self, It varies from time to time. These things come up all the time, and that's what the practice is for. I think people get frustrated because they think they're not kind of cured. Like once they do it, it's done. No, as soon as this camera clicks off, I'll be back judging, and I'll be back trying to get a result, and I'll be back doing all of the dysfunctional things or things that get in the way of what I want for my life, and that I have to remind myself is not where I want to be. Right. But the more you do it, the easier it is to recognize what you're doing and to cure it, or at least to stop doing it, take a look at why you're doing it, and then remember to go back into what your practice is about: compassion, detachment, understanding, gratitude, and so forth.
Yeah, I think about like, just my life before the practice, as well as my friends, right? If they're like in a relationship, right, that is challenging, or they're in a job to where they don't feel fulfilled or satisfied or valued, it's really, it's I don't want to use the word, it's easy. It's easy to think that that's the primary work, because I've been there. And what I've learned through suffering and through some really good teachers, you being one of them, as well as, some other people like Eckhart Tolle and, Wayne Dyer and Tara Brach, Michael Singer, is that's not the primary work. The primary work is me, like working on me, working on myself to become an individual that, regardless of what's happening outside of me, that I'm working to develop in such a way that I'm going to be okay regardless of what's going on outside of me. Now, if there's something that happens that puts me in physical danger, I can be peaceful as I remove myself from that situation, or try to move myself from that situation. The same thing if I'm in an environment that is not healthy for me. Again, it starts first with the work on myself, to remove myself along the way and do my best not to be bitter about it. And certainly not to carry it forward into a new situation, environment, or state or relationship that I'll be in. Oftentimes what I found is, including my own life, but people that I know, is they're so busy working on their problems that if they're able to move out of that problem, guess what? It's another one waiting. Another problem waiting. And then they bring the same self to that problem, and they're reliving it all over again because you've been working on a problem. And you're right back there. You take an athlete, right? Let's take, a baseball player. They keep getting, struck out with the same pitch. Because it's not about the pitch. You need to work on your skills, on your game. Don't be wishing for a different pitcher. Can they bring in another guy? Why would they bring in another guy when he or she is getting you out all the time?
That's it.
They're gonna bring in somebody else in the bullpen when this one is having so much success with you. Why would life serve you up something better when you can't handle this? You know what I'm saying? No, you show that you can handle this situation by working on you first. And when you do, then, like as you said, Rick, the other things become easier.
Yeah.
And with time, and more than with time, with practice, it doesn't matter who's on the mound. It doesn't matter what life throws you, but you got to be committed to the practice. And for me, I said, you know what? I don't want to keep making it all about working on problems. That's a full-time job of being obsessive thinking about the problem over and over. You get no peace, no rest, anxious about it, fearful about it. Man, that's exhausting. And before you know it, it's a story of your life.
That's right. That's exactly what happens.
No matter what you're going through, let's say it's a loved one at home that's struggling. You laying awake at night about that. All day is consuming you. Okay, that can become the story of your life. Or
that's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it. Or you can become a person who, that even in the face of that, you're peaceful. You're still compassionate. You're still joyful. You're not experiencing compassion fatigue. That's possible too, but you have to work on it. But as you work on it, as with anything else, the workload becomes lighter.
That's right.
It becomes easier. You start having to think about it. That's where I've chosen to spend my time. I spend my time that way. And with it, man, I'm experiencing more and more peace. With every rep that I get, oh man, I just made more room for a little bit more peace, a little bit more peace. And before you know it, the space that the peace occupies is so much greater than the sliver of space that relative problem occupies. But what happens to most people is in this circle, it's all problem or mostly problem and no peace. But if you work on yourself, you're going to find the peace is going to just wrap itself around that problem to where it's not even a problem anymore. It becomes an opportunity for the practice. And that's kind of where I've transitioned, Rick. And every day to stay on this path, I just do a little bit more work today. Just a little bit more work.
That's beautiful, Keith. That's exactly right. That's why it's called a practice. The thing that's important is that everyone has a monkey mind that allows us to go down every blind alley there is to go down and beat ourselves up and beat other people up. That's the monkey mind that you have to be mindful of. If you can just get to the point where you don't have any judgment about it, you see things the way they are without trying to control them, that's a big, big change. And that sets you down the path for better things and for less suffering for yourself and others around you.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful human being. I love watching the transition.
Thank you,
you know, and I love your lessons, hearing how you've dealt with what you've dealt with. And you've had some major setbacks all of your life, beginning with your childhood. And to see where you're at and what you're doing and how you're making other lives brighter just by being who you are and sharing your journey and your path and your vulnerability. It's a beautiful thing, Keith.
Oh, thank you so much, Rick, man. I'm grateful, full of gratitude, man, full of gratitude. I love you, Rick.
Yeah, and we're all grateful for having you around, you know?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love you, my friend.
I love you. Take care, Keith.